Today is a bit of a strange one. I'm going to be reacting to my own video. The reason why I'm doing this is because in an effort to save time, I cut out a lot of information. In fact, a little too much. And I'm worried that it's not really going to come off as informative as it should. So instead of making that video longer, I'm just going to go through and provide extra context here with you live. So obviously this one will be a little bit longer than the 2-minute video. So I hope that you can bear with me. All right, let's go. So basic defensive and offensive templates. So the idea here is that you don't have, you're a really small country, right? Like think one military factory, and you can't, the only thing you can produce is guns, and you want to get a unit out. Like how small can you go? You can go probably to 6 width, not recommended. Ideally here, like this would be potentially a port guard or something that would hold a line in a very small country. This is the lowest you kind of ever want to go in Hoi 4. It is terrible for attacking. The things that you want to look at here are the breakthrough values. This is going to be for when you're doing attacks, and then defense is obviously when you're holding a line. Because of its low breakthrough value, you're not going to really want to use this too often for attacking. Yeah, so this one here is obviously a bit better. It's like 3 times the cost. However, you essentially get double, triple the stats, and you also get train modifiers. These train modifiers are very important because essentially you will get extra stats on defense, and a lot of them are on defense and on these certain things. Of course, slightly better for attacking rivers because you have the engineer company, and of course slightly better for naval invasions. But otherwise, most of the extra value in this is the train modifiers and the air attack, which the previous division doesn't have air attack. So if the enemy does have CAS up, or if they have green air, you're going to be able to reduce those bonuses and the amount that they actually hit you. And a little bit of arty to give some more soft attack. Again, it's a very cheap division. You don't tend to want to use it for attacking because look at the difference here in the breakthrough. Breakthrough is only 72. Obviously, and defense is 492. So obviously you want to use this when holding a line, just because there's a lot more value in what's here. Yeah, and I do say that on the side here. So you'll see this here sometimes. A lot of YouTubers use this division. The thing is, you don't actually need a whole, like in Hoi 4 against the AI, you actually don't need the most meta divisions you can make. So for the cost of 2,500 to 3,000 IC, you can get a pretty decent division. You can see here the breakthrough is about double what the previous one was. And of course we have really good speed here. So when you do make those breakthroughs, you can rush to supply hubs, you can overrun them. I also have a situation here where I didn't talk about why you might want logies. Logistic companies reduce your supply usage, and it reduces your fuel usage. So they are kind of important on motorized and tanks, but especially when you are making those breakthroughs and you are going through, like you're going to be outrunning your supply, and you won't often actually have a whole lot of supply. So you may end up often overstacking in a tile, even if you're not intending to, just because you are pushing. And having those logistic companies really do make a big difference in the long run. Otherwise, downsides to this division here is you don't have armor, and they are better, but they're not the best stats that you can have. So, you know, there is a bit of a trade-off. The big benefit to mechanized over motorized is hardness. You can see here at 1949 or 1942 tech, you can get nearly half hardness in the division. The way that hardness works is it's essentially a roll. If you have 50% hardness, which it's about 50, maybe it's like 48, 45 in that area. But if you have, let's say you have 50% hardness, half of the time the attack rolls will come from the enemy's hard attack value. When it's calculating damage, it is going to take the enemy's hard attack value. In vanilla Hearts of Iron 4 against the AI, they do not ever prioritize hard attack. Very rare exceptions where the enemy will actually have a high hard attack value. So often this works out to be something like half the damage, or like a 40% reduction in damage for a division that has 50% hardness. The numbers, depending on how the numbers work out, it could be a little bit less or more than that, but a good way to think of it is hardness is kind of like a damage reduction. So for mechanized, that brings in a lot of value. Another thing you'll see here is mechanized has a higher HP value. If I just go back to the motorized, these are the same size, but this one only has 232 HP, and this one has 277. When we get to the point where we're talking about tanks, mechanized can actually make a big difference in giving you that extra HP, because you want to get more tanks in, but you also don't want to lose too much HP, because if you lose too much HP, when you do take damage, you take a lot more. It really does add up. So you can see here you get a little bit more HP. So it tends to be worth it. They are more expensive. So you can see here, this one costs about 5,000 IC. Again, at this point, when you're using divisions like this, you're going to want to be playing majors. Essentially, like, if you need to be able to assign like 5 to 10 factories just on mechanized alone in order to get any sort of number of divisions out. You need 360 just for this one template. So when we get to like these kind of divisions versus the just using the motorized, you want to make sure that you have a little bit more industry. I wrote here, con, not a tank division. That's true. If you have this kind of industry, why not build tanks, right? So it can be kind of useful. You may have situations where you just didn't research it. You got to this part late in the game and you have the mech. Maybe you want to just continue with it. That makes sense. But okay, this is a situation where if you don't actually have a whole lot of industry, but you still want to make pushes and things like that, like what do? This could be early in the game before you have a whole lot of motorized. What you want to do is make a small number of offensive units. So something manageable, sort of in the 6, 12, no more than 24 of these units. And these units will be what you make pushes with. So previously we had the defensive units. These are the offensive units. I should have mentioned earlier that the motorized and the mechanized were also the offensive units. That's what we have in the brackets up here. So this is what you would use to push. It's not the best because, again, you don't have the highest breakthrough, and that armor value is not going to actually benefit anything. So essentially you have no hardness, you have low breakthrough, but the trade-off is it is very inexpensive. The thing is, because your breakthrough is lower and because you have no hardness, you will be taking a lot more in terms of casualties. So with divisions like this, you're going to want to make sure that you're doing small breakthroughs and going for encirclements. You want to concentrate these units in a small area. They're also slow. I actually didn't even write this down, but these are 4 kilometers an hour. It's going to be a little bit harder to push with them, but yeah. I would recommend a 9.4 over a 7.2. If you can use a 7.2 as well at the 20 width for areas that have lower supply. Another important thing with the offensive units is you want to fill out your support companies on this side here. So just make sure that you are at least exploiting this. If you were to trade something out, you could remove this for recon, or even field hospitals might be a good benefit. I tend to put artillery as a support company in early and then remove it sort of mid-game. And the reason why you put it in early is because you can bring in more soft attack for very low cost. However, the trade-off is you're not using something that might give you a different modifier. And support companies really are where the modifiers shine. So all right, so this is an early game tank division. This isn't one with the 42 stats. I don't know why the speed is at 5 kilometers an hour. I think maybe I didn't have the best design, but you could get something closer to 8. 8's a good number. 8 or 9, something you might want. Again, it's going to come down to your design. Early on, you can do a ratio of 1-to-1 as well. You can get out a few tanks pretty early. Like as Germany, you could probably get out 12 of these easily by Danzig. By mid game, I've removed that artillery. Obviously, we're looking for stuff that has modifiers in terms of your support companies. Again, flame tanks are good. A recon is another option if you're struggling for intelligence. So Germany against the Soviets, you may want the recon. Not necessarily the other way around, just because you're going to have the intel advantage. Here, I've reduced the number of mechanized to 5. I wouldn't go any lower than 5, just because you don't have enough organization or HP. However, you can see here you get a lot more soft attack in. Again, these are vanilla stats, and these are very good for vanilla stats for 1942. I know maybe you've seen on YouTube and other videos and stuff like people hitting 4 digits by 1942. Those are generally mods, bloated mods. They inflate your stats, they give you bigger numbers. This is kind of what a tank division, a mid-game vanilla tank division actually looks like. I'm sure I'm going to get a million comments about like not even having 1,000 stats. In Hearts of Iron 4, against the AI, again, you want to focus your soft attack just because hard attack's not really worth it. And then we have a situation here where our hardness value is really high. So these tanks perform, and I use them. This is what I would build for Barb. So they perform quite well until you get past, Stalingrad, that area. But if you have collapse, you're generally good. But the Eastern Front, this is what my tank will look like. And it performs very well for 1940. Again, you can, if you're worried about casualties and losing equipment, you can remove a few of these tanks and put in more mech. As you're switching out, another thing is, as you're playing, you're going to be changing your tank division. And so you're going to be pulling out that motorized and putting in mech. So you will have a situation where you have, just before this, you will have motorized in here and mech mixed. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine to do. And then that is the last template. I believe. Yeah, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything, leave it below. I'll do my best to respond to the comments for this video and for the other one as well. And if you haven't actually watched the template video, go ahead and check it out over here. The intended audience for that video is a new Hoi 4 player who doesn't understand pretty much any of this, and they just want an example to copy. So, you know, there are situations where some of these are not optimal, obviously, but I just wanted to give people a good baseline to start from, and, you know, stop building those 9-1s and things like that and thinking that that's something that you can use for an offensive division. That's my hope. That was my hope out of this video. We'll see how it goes. Honestly, I wasn't perfectly happy with it, and that's why I made this. So.